What's going on, Tunes? Welcome. I'm JonJonTheWise, and I am here with some very special guests. We are here with the crew from Infinite Sided Dice, also known as the crew from Cyberpunk Edge of Extinction. They wrapped up season 1, and we are here to answer some questions and really just talk about what we all just went through. Tears and all. Have the Kleenex ready. We're going to be talking about stuff, you know. But before we do, of course, let's introduce everybody. And we'll get straight to it. Dustin, the Game Master, take it away.
Hi, just like John said, I'm Dustin, and I'm the Game Master. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, John, so much for being the, not honorary, I would just say just part of the Infinite Sided Dice family from the very beginning. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you so involved in everything we're doing. And I'm super happy that you could do this with us today.
I love you, man. Danny.
Yeah, I'm Danny Herb. I'm one of the players, and also producer and many other hats that we wear, editor on the show. And I don't know what else to say, but there you go. Hi.
You also played Brea the Nomad, right?
Yeah, I played Brea the Nomad. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Everyone's favorite Nomad. Anais?
What's up? That's me. Hi, my name is Anais. I'm a player. I do some other stuff too. I play Martian, the Netrunner. And there's going to be spoilers in this video. So, you know, I also play Poltergeist, the solo, later in the season. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Day.
Hello, I'm Day, and I play Nautica, aka Shitwrecked, the media corpo runaway.
Yeah, you multi-classed from the beginning, right? Which is something we're definitely going to have to talk about that, because all the like hardcore Cyberpunk players, they want to know the nitty-gritty. And you multi-classed right away, right?
Not really. I'm full media in terms of like the crunchy stuff. I just have a character background of corpo, if that makes sense. So I don't like look at any of the corpo abilities, really. I don't know. You could probably tell me more because you know more than I do about it all. But like, it was more of like a flavor background of corpo with the media background.
Yeah, well, it worked so well. It was, it just makes sense. You know, those kinds of combinations, you see them in the Cyberpunk world, and it was just something that made logical sense as long as there's a good story behind it, which there was, and it all fit together. So I liked it.
Yeah, I like being a rebel, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So you guys just wrapped up the first season. Why don't you guys give a little bit of insight of how that went? I got to see it firsthand for the first episode, which was really an honor for me. But once you guys got into the groove of things, what was it like? Anyone can jump in at any time.
What was it like? It was awesome. I had a great time. I was pretty nervous starting out, having never done anything like this before. I think you were there, and you like you said, you witnessed that firsthand. But I would say that the cast and I mean, they're all sitting here. Were so good. It was nervous, like driving a sports car, like an expensive sports car. And then I just touched the gas, and it went so fast that I just held on to the steering wheel as best I could, and enjoyed the ride. I think that might be the best way to put it.
That was great. Like, yeah, great analogy, because you didn't crash the ending. You know, you made a good parallel park at the end. That's good.
I really like Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
no. I'm just being a host. I'm bringing things in, you know? Hey, how you
Sure.
doing?
I would say, like, as a player, I feel like most people in the TTRPG community have the experience of like getting together with your friends and like doing a marathon gaming session for like 6, 7, 8 hours, or like whatever, doing a sleepover, waking up the next day, like eating brunch and then playing more and just continuing with that. So it was a lot like that, but like even more so, because the gaming hours were really long and we were doing such like intense gameplay, you know, and so it was really, I mean, dream come true for the people like me who could game 24/7, because it was just like awesome getting to be there with friends gaming for long stretches of time like that.
Yeah, that's one of the wild aspects of it, was the scheduling that you guys had. It was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 hours. It was like a work day, basically, how you guys treated it. And with lunch breaks and all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had to, because in order to secure like the studio with the crew and all of the things that went into making it as high a quality as possible is what our plan was. You know, there's a lot of moving parts, right? So we had to kind of cram it all into a small period of time so that we could get a lot of content, so we could play through the season. And I'm actually really glad it happened that way, because when you play every week, it's short and it's fun and it's something to look forward to. But when you pack it all in really close, you remember exactly what happened. You're not trying to remember, oh, did I do this or did I make this, or you know, oh crap, I forgot to write down this gun that I just bought, or whatever. It's all fresh in your mind, which really made it easy to role play and you know, go from episode to episode seamlessly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a really fun 8-hour, 10-hour workday. Like it didn't feel that long. Like it was just super fun. And I know it was my first experience with anything Cyberpunk, and I didn't know what to expect, but it was really great. We all worked together so well, and the story came together so seamlessly. And it was like, what's going to happen next? Like we were constantly on the edge of our seats, like, where's it going?
It was literally so funny at like breaks and like lunch breaks, all of us being like, okay, so like, what's going on? Like, what about all of this? Like, it was so funny. We never wanted to stop playing. Like, even when we had our little lunch breaks and everything and bathroom breaks and, you know, doing tech stuff like that, we would still be like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, what are we going to do next? Like, what do we want to do? Like, oh God, we're playing again. Here we go. So yeah, it was awesome.
And towards the end,
and like,
oh, sorry, Danny.
no, you go.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, towards the end, when we started getting sent out mid-game,
I was gonna say.
all this solo stuff started happening, and like two of us would go away and we'd be like, what do you think is happening?
Yeah.
What's happening? I don't know. No, guys, can you move further away? Like we can hear you. Like
Yeah, shut up, we can hear you.
trying to theorize. And so that just added like even more like mystery to it all, because then all of a sudden we really didn't know what was happening.
Yeah. Also, Day, you were sent out of the room the most.
A lot.
Too. You just like weren't even
We know
like
why.
at the table for a while.
I ate a lot of snacks. It's fine.
Yeah, I wonder, were you like, is there something going on with my character? Because I'm seriously, I'm out here all the time.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my questions. Sorry. I know we have pre-planned questions. I do actually have a question for Day. Like, what did you think was going on when like Brad was pulling people in solo and then like I was alone towards the end? Like what was going through your head? Did you ever suspect that there was something going on like about your character, or were you just like, oh, they're doing whatever?
I feel like it's a little column A, little column B. Like I knew I was the outsider to the group in a way of like, you know, the most of you had all worked together and were known by these people, and I was being brought in. So, you know, and then when Brad was bringing people in one by one and it still wasn't me, I also kind of was just like, well, I'm the least close with him. Like he loves Martian. Like, him and Ricky are tight. Like, he said to me, like, I like you, but, you know, that doesn't mean much. And before, like, in game. So I was like, all right, I guess I know last. But I don't think I had any idea that it was what it was.
You certainly had a theory. You certainly had a theory. Do you want to share that with the audience, what your theory was? When Brett was alone
Oh
at
my
the
God, I
office?
forgot about my theory. I was really hoping. Wait, okay, well, I need to remember what my theory was. Oh no, it was good.
Yeah, it involved Ajax.
Yeah,
And
Aunt Judy? Was it Aunt Judy?
Brez's mom.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was convinced that Ajax and Brez's mom were like hooking up. I was like, it's probably not this, but I hope it is. I hope Ajax is like, Brett, I'm really sorry to tell you, but like, I'm your dad.
I'm your dad now.
Oh my God.
I wanted it to be.
Like speaking of breaks and theories and all that kind of stuff, when Dustin drops a bomb on us and then we go to break and we're just like, oh! Like shaking off because you're just like, you're so amped up. Like,
Yeah.
that's the fun part about some of these games. You just you get so into it that like you're like your palms are sweating and like I remember like looking over at Anais and being like, I'm so nervous right now. Like, and then like it's legit, man. Like we were getting really, really into it.
I think it was more nerve-wracking the night that the three of us got sent out while Martian was in there for like 30 minutes. And Anais came out like,
that was so funny.
Here's
Oh my gosh.
bleeding.
So
And then
literally-
Dustin's like, okay, see you guys tomorrow. And we're like, what happened?
So literally we did that scene and it was so funny because obviously you're just in the moment. And then like we're like, okay, break. And I'm like cleansing breath, like pull myself out of the scene. And then I like check my phone and I see myself in my reflection and I'm just like raccoon, like mascara down my face. And I was like, oh, I gotta show everybody. Like, guys, look how much I cried. You'll never guess what happened.
I think I'm gonna have to GM the table a little bit right now. You can tell we haven't had a chance to talk to each other enough in the last few weeks. We're all very excited. I will say there are some questions. I had a peek at the list, and if we keep talking, we're going to cover all the topics. And then when they ask questions, we're not going to have anything to say.
Yeah, well, the questions will be second half. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good on the first half. Hey, let me be the host. All right, Dustin, you relax.
Yeah,
No.
Dad, this is John's show.
Yeah, exactly. You're on my show now, Dad. All right. So actually, I do personally want to dive into that topic even more. The whole topic of Shitwrecked being the target of Ajax's fury. That I immediately, when I was listening to that episode, I texted Dustin and I said, "Dude, what a risk you took right there," because of Brez's character. Brez's character, you know, he works in that area. There's no reason for him and Shitwreck to be loyal to each other. And I would have thought, you know, hey, if he decides like, yeah, he's going to kill Shitwrecked, I don't think that he would be wrong. You know what I mean? But I love the way that Danny, you took time and you thought about it and you brought it back to the Santiagos. And it brought that clarity back to you, and you're like, no, this guy's the bad guy. So give me your insight on that whole situation when he drops that bomb on you, and you're like, I have to be in character. I have to think about my character. What's going on?
Well, when he dropped the bomb on me, I had to walk away and go, all right, now what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And this whole time leading up to it, that whole episode leading up to it, you know, Ricky's going, dude, I don't think this Ajax deal is working for you, you know? And like, I was going to say Day, Shitwrecked was like, yeah, dude, it doesn't sound good. Like, this doesn't seem right. And so it's like getting in Brez's head this whole time. And then, so I'm sitting here thinking about that. And I'm like, yeah, I could just kill her and it would be fine if I just killed her. But well, let's see what happens. See how he treats me if I stumble a little, because there's really nothing that she did wrong to me. So I'm kind of like, well, she's sort of innocent here, and Brev's always about protecting the innocent. And so when we come back and he starts pushing and threatening and getting like and starting to puff his chest out, that's when Brev was like, okay, no, all right, no. This isn't gonna fly with me. But had he tried to manipulate him further, I think he probably would have been like, yeah, all right, let's kill Shitwrecked. Like it really it was a matter of the way it played out and all the things that kind of that played into it, like all of the stuff that Ricky and Shitwrecked and stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, I honestly assume that the way that Marnie worked it out in their head was exactly how you were gonna work it out. I thought you were gonna go that route, basically.
Yeah, it was something I definitely thought of. I thought about just calling my mom and like just taking off and just go meeting up with Santiago's and be like, peace. Like I literally thought about doing that for sure.
Yeah, that is another thing where you just retire the character and then the character runs away.
Yeah.
I
felt like Brett had more to discover. Like he was getting manipulated by Ajax hardcore. And we established that in episode 1. Yeah. Like he gave him a false address on purpose and set him up, and so he could have his thumb under him. So he's under his thumb. But I felt like he needed something to wrap himself up. I didn't feel right about just walking away from him. So,
Dave, you had something to say?
I was just gonna say I worked really hard. Shitwreck put a lot of, not a lot, but like was kind of always there trying to convince Brad that he was smarter than he was telling himself. Like Shitwreck really, that piece of Brad like really struck Shitwrecked, and like she just really wanted him to know really wanted him to stop beating himself up on that. I don't know if that ended up affecting your decisions at all, because like when I was playing, like that was my connection to Brett, was just very much like, man, I got this guy's way more capable than he thinks he is, and like I gotta help him see that.
It's interesting. It's almost a through line through all of your characters. Maybe not Ricky as much, but you kind of all three are in your own ways being manipulated by circumstances and people. I wanted to just rewind a little bit back to just above table. GMs at home, really think hard before you do something like this, because it is not to be taken lightly. John's absolutely right. It's a huge risk. And if you don't know your players and you don't know their characters, if you don't talk to them about PvP, you don't trust that they're all going to be understanding, you can like ruin friendships. You could destroy your table, and it would be bad, right? But that said, when you can pull it off, it's really exciting and really fun. I will say that the legwork that went into that moment started the minute Danny told me his character. He said that I'm building this character and I have this. I apologize, my dogs are a little zoomy.
No, you're good.
I have this questionnaire that I give my players before they give me their characters. And one of the flaws or the flaw that he came up with was like this idea that he wanted to build a character that was loyal to a fault and valued friendship above all things. So the immediate conflict that popped into my head was, okay, then I need to align those two things against each other. Who are you loyal to? And if they aren't in agreement, then that's a conflict for you. So you can be passively loyal and you can be loyal, protect your friends, but then you have to choose who's your friend and who you're going to, you know what I mean? Eventually those things are going to come up against each other. So that entire plot line was engineered around Danny's character choice. Mm-hmm. It was nothing to do with what I wanted to have happen. It was just the most interesting way to push that character forward. And also I played with Danny for many years. So I know the types of moves he's going to want to make. And And I felt like once we were really in the character, I could make that choice. And on top of that, that was supposed to happen a few sessions earlier, right after the finishing up at the Ascension. So, but that session was so dark, the leaving people to die on life support, like the Harlan's weird thing, and everybody's really down and like kind of miserable, and the party was kind of fighting each other. And I was like, okay, I need to alter my plans here. Because if I tell Brett to kill Shitwreck right now, he might just like turn around and shoot her, and that's the end of that. There's no conflict because everybody's so miserable already. So that's sort of, I had this idea of a side quest to like get drugs for orphans or whatever. And it sort of like went into my notebook, and I was like, well, that's very heartwarming. It doesn't really fit the vibe of everything else that's going on. I'll put it on in my file for like another day. And then I was like, oh, great. They met Alma and they met Iyashi. Like, this is a great opportunity for them to like feel better and bond as a party. Because I feel like without getting out of Night City, without meeting, and I literally that morning, I think I started, Danny's like, why are you suddenly asking about who my family members are? I'm like, I need all your family members' names right now. Because he's like, I have a cousin and I have a mom. I'm like, I need their names and who they are, like right now. Because if Brad doesn't get reattached to his family, then I don't think any of that works. Like that side quest, I don't usually like side quests. Like you can see, we're very plot driven and it moves very fast. But that side quest was like absolutely essential to develop the characters in the party enough to make any of the rest of it work. Anyway,
getting vaccines for orphans, not just street drugs.
yeah, no.
You said getting drugs for orphans. I didn't want them to think we were drugging up some kids.
Yeah.
One of those feel good plot lines where you drug a bunch of kids.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be like the Piranha side quest if there was one.
Yeah, so I did that math very fast on the fly. This is the downside of playing all in one go and not having a week to think. As a GM, that puts a lot of stress on you to have it all put together, and then when you need to make a left turn, it has to happen very quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a testament to what game masters have to go through, because it's not just putting the story together, it's also being highly aware of the tone of where the campaign is going, how all the characters are interacting with each other, because they're just playing their character. They're playing themselves, and they're playing themselves in situations. So it's good that you devise the plan to bring them to that common denominator, and that bonded them, and then you made them cry towards the end of the series.
I've never cried in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. No tears.
Yeah, I wasn't holding back tears in traffic while I was listening.
I mean, that was another quick turnaround. Who am I now? Here I am answering the other question.
Yeah, I thought we were. Come on, hypocrite.
No. This is good, because some of the questions are like, answer these things. We're answering it for these people.
Yeah. But we went home. Luckily, we had an overnight between the Dodger and Martian in the imaginary baseball stadium. We went home, and on the drive home, Anaya says, Martian's going to leave. And I was like, oh, okay, what does that look like? What does it mean?
Yeah.
And I stayed up all night long building Poltergeist.
Well, we spent all night, we just stayed up late, working out the character. And so it was a really quick turnaround on the character development and the character growth, because I didn't have a backup character. That's a great tip. If you're doing condensed filming of a game like Cyberpunk, where people can die and leave all the time, have a backup character, even if you don't feel like making one. So I didn't have one yet. And it was I kind of had an idea of a vibe I wanted to bring with the character. And then we got to the studio early in the morning. We did the scene of of Martian meeting up with Dodger and them leaving together. And then there's like an hour of gameplay. And within that hour was when I was actually making the character sheet and like learning the mechanics of how to play the game. So it was pretty bananas. It was a quick turnaround. It was fun though. I like it. I like working under pressure like that with games. I think you don't have time to like get analysis paralysis. I think it's really easy to get caught up on making the right choices or the optimum choices. But when you don't have time, you're just like, this sounds cool. All right, here we go. Let's do it.
But it added to the story really well because you got to play two completely different characters with completely different motivations, different attitudes. Martian is more of like the introverted nerd genius, and Poltergeist is the, quiet killer in the corner that you don't want to mess with. And it was cool to like bring both of them into the campaign, and her Poltergeist's introduction to the group also made sense when you guys met Ghost and all that, and all that whole thing that happened. So it was cool that you guys all took risks like that, because that's what made it interesting. It was cool for Dustin to take a risk. It was cool for you to take a risk to change your character. And, all those things coalesced into a really amazing season 1 that had everybody crying at the end. So congratulations to you guys for that one. So you guys ready to transfer over to some questions?
Heck yeah.
Let's do some questions.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
We had some community questions from folks because they wanted to know some things. The first question's from Fort Nerd, aka Gary. He was on my podcast recently. He asked what was the most unexpected thing to happen in season 1. Anything that we didn't mention already?
I can tell. I have one.
Okay.
It's funny because I knew what was going to happen, but there was one thing that was really unexpected. In session 1, during the very first vignette with Day, and she busted out Nautica's voice for the very first time.
Yeah.
I almost stopped. I almost had to cut the cameras because I was like, hold on, gotta get my head around this.
Yeah, it was like Legally Blonde 2077.
Yeah, it was so incredible, and because we had done some session 0 with like the pairs, and we did one with Shitwrecked and Ricky, but Nautica never surfaced in that session 0, so it was incredible and very unexpected for me.
I could not stop laughing. I could
so
not.
good.
It took me so long to get used to it, and I never got used to it. It cracked me up so much.
Yeah, and I didn't even I knew obviously she had like dual personalities, but I was just sitting there and it was time to be Nautica, and I was like, well, here we go.
I don't know what I was expecting, but
It was like Cher from Clueless.
Yeah.
Or something. It was very
Alexis Rose from
Yes.
Yeah, and as Danny knows, once you commit to a voice, you're doing it the whole season.
Oh man, yeah, and I regretted it at first, and I was like, dude, people are gonna hate this. and then I kind of toned it down a little, and I was like, okay, I think this is working into a groove. I think it's okay. And then people are like, oh my gosh, I love it. It's so great. And I was like, oh thank God.
Well, it evolved, is as your character evolved. His voice revolved. There was like more confidence that built up from the way he talked. Instead of being like the dumb oaf, he shed that role and grew up basically.
yeah, that was something after session 02 we talked about refining that voice, but definitely not getting rid of it because it was such a nice part of your character. And from the very beginning, we're not playing this voice for laughs. And Brett is very sincere. And it was never Brett never did a dumb thing for laughs. It was just always sincerity, 100% of the time. And that's the only reason it works. I feel like on a different character, it would drive me crazy. But by the end of it, you found the voice so well that that sort of epic campfire speech where you're just like, I'm not going to be pushed around or whatever. It was so genuine. You're so in it. It was like, yeah, that's Brett. I'm sitting here looking at Brett. It's great.
Yeah. When you found out that Ajax had set you up, that's when the real Bre, came out.
Mm.
In my opinion, it was like a complete change.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll say that I didn't expect Karen.
No one would expect that. That thing is hideous, dude.
I didn't expect like Caden in that moment of seeing Caden right at the end. It's not something that I ever like connected the dots on. Hey, what's up, Alexis?
What's going on, man?
And he appears.
There he is.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you introduce yourself and the character you were playing for the audience out there?
Okay, my name is Alexis de la Rosa, and I was playing Ricky Wars in Edge of Extinction. Edge of Extinction.
Eggs of Extinction.
Eggs.
Our new Easter merch.
They're
drop.
scrambled.
Eggs of Extinction.
The resident rocker boy, very fitting. We got the guitar in the background. We're glad to have you
That
here.
was not planned. That was not planned.
Of course. No. When does Ricky plan anything? He got mixed up in some crazy shit.
Ricky, despite playing his cards close to the chest, tries not to plan anything, but at the end of the day, he does actually end up putting thought into things.
Well, you can answer.
But he doesn't want anyone to know that. That's all.
Oh, of course. Well, you can answer the next question then, since you got here. This is from Jerk Alert. Jerk Alert wants to know why you decided to play the role you chose, and also when does season 2 drop?
Well, season 2, you've got to ask our game master. I have nothing to do with that. However, I chose Ricky, and I chose. And when you're saying role, I guess you're referring to the rocker boy role.
Yep.
I like playing characters who have license to behave badly, or and by badly, I'm using that relative, as a relative term, and like behave however they want, say what they want, and act how they want, and but still be like nice and cool about it, as opposed to, I don't know, being a really kind of like cold, calculated character who says really mean things. I like to play those too, but it was just nice to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to play a rocker boy that's an asshole, that is arrogant, and and headstrong. But Ricky was not those things. He was, kind. He was cool. Someone that you want in a gunfight. All those things.
Yeah, and I think that was that in a place like Night City. That's a rebel. Mm-hmm. It is a guy who can find a way to be kind and find a way to connect with other humans, and doesn't even if some people find some fans like Blades annoying, Ricky still gives her the time of day, and they became pals.
What are you talking about?
Everybody in this call loves Blades. There isn't a single person that has any kind of issue with Blades. So
Blades was awesome. She was one of my favorite surprises of Dustin's. I loved it.
Dave, what about you for picking the role that you chose?
Well, like I said, this was my first experience with anything Cyberpunk, so I was kind of just like, there's a lot of choices. I looked through them all, and media just kind of spoke to me. And then when I was trying to create, like, okay, well, what's an interesting story around media? Why would I be media? Like, I want an interesting story. I don't just want to be like someone who wanted to run a scream sheet. And I don't know, the whole subterfuge angle just kind of came to me of like, ooh, let's be corporate, but exposing all their secrets because I'm unhappy with how everyone around me behaves. And that was really exciting. And I did make 2 characters at the same time because I was new to the whole group, really, and I didn't know. It was like, oh my gosh, what if someone comes to the table and they also have a media? So like, I need a second character in case that happens. And like, I had this whole other medic character that I sent Dustin as well. So now I just have a backup, which is great.
That was the smart thing to do. Have a backup.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work. I was like, I don't really know if this is how people play this, like being corporate, but like not.
No, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful concept. It had a lot of depth to it. I think it's maybe you didn't know this at the time, but logically, a media or anybody that's trying to like expose things will always have a giant target on their back and will also be a liability to the people around them. And maybe that's what Dustin was playing off of when he decided to put your character on the chopping block.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
did you have that in mind? Like, did you have that realization throughout the campaign, or did you know it from the beginning?
I mean, I knew it was a dangerous choice, right? I'm like exposing family secrets and their corpos are not to be messed with. Which I like tried to build in like this anonymity of shit wrecked, of like always in black, wanted to be very unassuming, not stand out. And I had all this cyberware, like I could change my eyes, I could change my hair. So kind of like constantly being in disguise was my like thought process of like, this is how I get away with this, and being so useless as Nautica that no one would suspect anything. Like being like, no one wants to talk to her. No one wants to think about her. She is the most annoying person out there that like no one would connect the two things.
Yeah. Danny, you played a nomad. Nomads and their family were a big thing in your character development. Tell us about what made you want to play a nomad and how that evolved.
Well, that's just it. It evolved, right? I didn't pick a nomad at first. This is also my first time at Cyberpunk as well. I mean, I've played in science fiction role RPGs before, but yeah, so I think I started off with the solo or something, and I was like, I don't really, and I wasn't building him right. I was building Breh, really. And Dustin was like, dude, this just doesn't match a solo. Honestly, you'd be better off with something more like a nomad. And I was like, okay. So then I looked at nomad and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is exactly what I want. And I get this cool car shit too. So, so then I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, this is perfect. But I didn't really know what I was doing. So I just kind of, it just kind of, with Dustin's help, he was like, this is what you want. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's what I want then.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Anais, as we spoke before, you had the chance to play two different characters. So walk us through that, from Marnie to Poltergeist.
Yeah. So with Martian, this was my first time playing Cyberpunk Red, but, I watch enough anime that I'm pretty familiar with the genre of Cyberpunk. So for me, it was a lot of like thinking about what do I find interesting about the world and how do I attach a character to this world, and what excites me about it. So for me, that was definitely everything surrounding the net was very cool. And it was kind of a hard decision to make because everyone's always like, the Netrunners, don't play Netrunner for your first class. Don't do it. It's too much work. And like, it's not. You just have to read a little bit more. So if you're going to get into Cyberpunk Red and you want to play Netrunner, don't be scared. It's fine. Yeah, so it was a lot of just like, if like the lore around it was really cool and really interesting and compelling. And then also the idea that maybe I could make a character that works on their own world too. And like really centering escapism on it. I think that like escapism is a big thing with Martian and a big theme that they kind of dealt with throughout the series. So much to the point where they escaped, like physically. But yeah, so that was why I chose a Netrunner. And then for solo, like I kind of mentioned before, we didn't have a whole lot of time, and it wasn't like I had kind of an idea of the character I wanted to play, and I kept saying like, oh, it'd be cool to play solo. That's everybody's favorite. Like we're a party without a solo, which is like unheard of. So it seemed pretty natural, like knowing what kind of personality I wanted to bring to like also make her a solo. too. So it was really cool. I got to play like 2 super iconic Cyberpunk classes. And it was awesome. They're very different and they're so awesome in their separate ways.
Yeah, it was great. And just to touch on that, Day, you also played a media. The media and the Netrunner and the Fixer, these are what are considered advanced classes. But you guys did just fine, right?
It's you can play whatever class you want. I think people get scared, but like just if you do the reading, the app is great. The Cyberpunk Red Companion app. If you just like sit down, you can sit down with your GM. You can watch some JonJonTheWise videos. Like it's just a little extra homework, and it really doesn't take that long. And so if you want to play the classes that are hard, like just do it. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If a class speaks to you, just give it a shot. Read it. It's really, that's one of the beauties of Red and the mechanics of Red is that they really have made it like super palpable for people coming from other systems, because it's really pared down, so you don't even have to get the complicated classes. Honestly, it's just a little bit more reading. If you've ever played a wizard, it's probably harder, so I would absolutely recommend to give Dustin credit. I don't think I was gonna play a rocker boy, and he was like, you'd be a great rocker boy. And I'm like,
you literally have a guitar in the background. You're wearing a band t-shirt right now.
Come on.
I learned to play that thing over the pandemic. Okay. I sound like crap. So no,
that's because you were always a rocker boy. All right.
At heart.
Yeah.
At heart. That's right.
So
yeah.
There's a second. Am I muted?
No, you're good.
Okay. There's a second part of the question about season 2, but before I answer that, everybody wants, the reason those classes are hard to play is because if you go into the campaign just trying to kill everything, play a solo, because it is way easier to kill stuff when you're a solo. But if you're going to enjoy a role play experience and investigative, you want to play, you want to flex those investigative muscles, because like Day will attest to that. Like
I couldn't kill anything.
Yeah, but like 90% of the game, you were absolutely clutch. Those like 33 perception checks, like amazing. And then when it's time to shoot, like maybe that's you figure it out.
It's fine. I did really low damage, but Martian kept accidentally just murdering people. So that's great.
I was just rolling like crits every time I brought out a gun. Like that was fully the dice. That was not anything to do with the fighting mechanics of a Netrunner.
Right. So Danny and Lex, I think, both came to me with solos as their first idea. And I was like, I don't want 2 solos. That sounds like I'm gonna have to ramp up the difficulty, and then the other characters are gonna be outmatched, and it's all these like GM things that you worry about. I'm like, I'm gonna try to talk. I'll give them both other ideas, and hopefully one of them will bite. And then they both just loved the suggestions so much, because it was really based on their backstories and stuff. I'm like, this doesn't sound like the kind of character you want to play. Like you're. I mean, I know Nomad is not necessarily how it used to be with the family, and I think 2020 had a actual mechanical thing where you can call family members and have them come like kick ass for you or something.
Yeah, it was considered overpowered because you could literally just call an entire Nomad family on like a location, and it's as a game master, you're like, okay, what do I do?
But you're still gonna be a lawman, so whatever. But I just looked at their backstories and said, like, okay, this, and also Lex, like, you, like in our first session, I think you played a solo, and I was like, this is fine, but you're gonna have so much more fun if we just give you a little like cadre of fans, and like it's gonna be so much better.
Yeah.
And but I'm not saying like don't tell your players not to be solos. Like,
right,
because plenty of people are gonna get a lot of enjoyment out of that. So
Soul is a great class for sure.
Season 2 though, I can not announce a date, but I can tell you that we have I think 3 episodes. We're going to see how it pans out of we announced on Patreon we have this these 3 episodes of a rocker boy centric campaign with some really special guest players. But Ricky is back, and Designer Bleak is hitting the road, and it's a really fun game. Yeah, with some really great guests.
The guests are phenomenal. I am not the reason to watch that. You gotta watch for these guests. They are fantastic.
Yeah, I think we'll announce those later. But yeah, so that should actually be coming out. If you're watching this on the day that it's released, assuming it's released on the day I think it's released, you may have it by the end of the week, actually. So I don't know. I'm looking at Danny. He's editing right now. I think he's still missing some artwork. Yeah, the production pipeline is, we work as fast as we can. But we have that. We have another one shot that is run by Anais that is really awesome as well. And they're playing a version of Blades in the Dark called Scum and Villainy. So there is a ton of great stuff on the horizon, but that I think season 2 is going to be sometime next month. And then, and we're all really excited for it. I think we're shooting it this month. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Lots of fun story ideas. Yeah.
There you go. We're sure to hear about it. Also, if you definitely want to hear about it, make sure you guys follow them on social media at Infinite Sided Dice everywhere that social media exists. So Day, you couldn't kill anything, but nothing could kill Ricky either. So our next question was, did I miss it, or did Ricky actually never lose even 1 HP during the whole campaign? That dude is truly a rocker boy.
Yeah, actually, before you answer it, that's
not gonna answer.
That's from Johnson on our Patreon. So
yes, sorry about that.
Yeah, jump
Johnson.
patreon.com/Infinite Sided Dice. Join us over there. We have sneak peeks at all of our minis and behind the scenes stuff and announcements about future developments and seasons. And we answer your questions like this one. Sorry, go ahead. Did Ricky ever get shot? I think he got hit at least once, right? But I really, well, let me answer honestly. I don't remember taking much damage ever. And that wasn't 100% by design, but it was also, it evolved to that because he knew how to swing a bat. He wasn't afraid of getting in there, right? But evasion always ended up working out really, really well. Now, what do you call it? Resisting poison didn't work out. So like my bad rolls went to that. But yeah, I mean the dice liked Ricky as a rocker boy.
Ricky.
I think you got pretty beat up in our game 0 session.
Yeah, I think
no one saw that.
That's such a regret of mine. I really wish I would have taped specifically that one because it was the introduction of Blades and it was so much fun.
Listen, there's a reason I don't like her.
Okay, so I'm remembering.
But also, there's another thing.
God, I did not know that. I had no idea that she was in game 0. That's awesome.
Yeah, he also the very end of it was like someone runs in with a jacket that looks like it's clearly been on fire, and then like in the first we learned that it was Martian like retroactively, and I was like, oh, that's so cool.
So, I remember you needing to take your jacket to the seamstress next door. So you must have had at least 1 point of ablation on your armor. So I don't know, maybe that very first fight against Slimeball, that the guy that started shit at the shortstop and then accosted you guys outside and got beat up.
It's just the one that sticks out in my head is the fight with Karen.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I walked out of that without taking a hit.
Well, you like purposefully went to snipe. Yeah, that was a choice.
And then there was this, and there was this thing that happened after that where you start to realize your party balance, and I was like, well, if Brad's always going to be in there, and it'd be nice to have someone bringing up the rear. And it ended up working out in all the fights after that. We just kind of kept that, and we were victorious. And I really appreciated all the opportunities I did get to save Shitwrecked.
Which you did a lot. I was like, Ricky, please! I've been shooting at this guy for 5 rounds and he's not dead yet.
What I'm hearing is that the GM needs to go harder on us in season 2.
I think we're not going to.
We need.
What are you doing? You're like the
Ricky, please.
What are you doing? You're like the girl in school that's like, teacher, you didn't give us. You forgot to give us homework.
I think
What's wrong with you?
that we need to get our asses kicked. I think we need to be taken down a peg. I don't
I
think
almost
anybody
died
should be
like
going.
3 times.
But nobody died yet. Nobody's died yet. Okay.
I made my phone calls. I thought I was going to die. I called Aunt Judy. I was like, I'll see you in another life.
I thought I was going to die too.
But nobody died.
So
Typical solo right here.
I'm just saying. I want to. Come at me, bro. You can try to kill me now.
Yeah.
man.
one of the things that happened is this is a great opportunity. I'm just going to shout out Garrett at Green Tower for making these really cool sets and all these buildings and modular stuff. And I was able to build these huge boards that we played our action scenes on.
Oh, so nice.
And I had never really done anything like that with. I played a lot with Lex and Danny as well, but we did some stuff on the tabletop, but not to this degree. And what you kind of find out is it turned out Alexis is a very tactical player. You're able to use the terrain and use the cover and move in such a way that kept you out of danger a lot. Now, I think Danny made a character choice that I'm going to try to grapple every single person that comes down the table.
Yeah, and if they're not close to me, I'll make them close to me.
When it works.
Yeah, when it works.
So that was one of those. I got a hold of John at 7 a.m. before that session because I'm like, Danny is itching for some special cyberware for these arms, and I don't want to break the game. So I called on the guru with the experience, and we sort of collaborated and came up with those 2 weapons. And I think they weren't game breaking at all. I think they were really fun and really interesting and made for some really awesome dramatic moments when they didn't work and when they did work. Yeah.
I remember we talked about what's the cost of having a good thing. There always has to be a downside with the upside, and as long as there's a downside, then it's fine. And it proved true. When the first time you used it, it was like gunk and went over there.
And now you got to reel your hand back in.
Yeah. You're like, well, this isn't as great as I thought it. But then when it connected, you were like, yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the first time it connected was with Ajax.
Yeah, when it needed to. Exactly.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But had it worked the first time, Meep wouldn't have gotten so shot up.
Exactly. There's a lot of GM questions here, and I think that it would better serve our show if, Dustin, you came on again on another podcast and we answered some of these questions, because it's a lot of what did you do? A lot of GM stuff, basically.
Yeah, I think. I can't. Patreon again. I think it was Johnson gave us a list of GM questions. I did want to say to him, those are all great questions. I'm currently working on some advice videos that I'll be sure to drop on Patreon before they go anywhere else. And I'm sure I want to get back on Tabletop Cyberpunk and talk about GM stuff a lot. The one thing that I would address is I think this is a question that could go to the players as well, is what hand did the GM I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but it's the one about how much did the GM impact your character backstories, and what did he tell you, and what did you take from that? And I could just answer, I didn't tell him anything. There was no, and none of the campaign was written until I got those backstories. So it's a player first way of developing the game, which deserves a video all on its own. But I did want to say thank you for those were awesome questions, and if if I don't get the video out soon, I'll just jump on Patreon and I'll let you know. I'll just answer them.
Yeah, shout out to Johnson and Strive from the Patreon. You guys support me as well. I've seen your names many times. Thank you so much. I think what we'll do is we'll close with our good friend Garrett's question here. He wanted to know how the system is different from D&D, and if I could add to it, maybe Shadowrun, or you guys came in, most of you playing Cyberpunk for the first time, or handful, less than 5 times, and maybe you had some certain expectations. How did those evolve as you guys became veterans of Cyberpunk Red?
We're veterans?
Yeah, are you kidding
Hell
me?
yes.
You guys have played hours upon hours, days
That's
upon
true.
days.
That's fair.
What else does somebody need to be a veteran?
This game is, so I feel like a lot of people have this misconception that Cyberpunk is an overly crunchy game and really intimidating. I think part of that is earlier editions. We're on the crunchier side. I would say that Cyberpunk Red is slightly crunchier than D&D 5e, but not much, because it's still a roll to hit. And so a lot of the mechanics, they're almost kind of the same genre mechanics wise of game. Of really, I would say the roles themselves are very customizable. I would say there's a lot more customizing options available for character creation. I think that a lot of people learn games by making a character. I think that's kind of how I like to, if I'm not running the first time I play a game, if I'm playing a game, I like to build a character and then learn what that character does. And I think a lot of people will see the skill tree and how specific all the skills are in Cyberpunk, and how there's so much more than 5e or other systems, and can be really terrified. But honestly, if it's, once you get over that, it's really not a difficult game to learn at all. And I make cheat sheets and stuff in my notebook of as soon as we had started playing, I would start writing down the skill modifiers in my notebook next to my notes of the ones I use the most. And then I did that again for Poltergeist, because obviously I was using different kinds of skills. So that's a great way to keep track of it. I would say there's a lot of room for narrative too. It's a crunchier game. But there are roles like the media, obviously, where role playing, and Fixer, I would say, is another one where role playing is can be such a huge part of the storytelling. And so I'm excited. I hope that more people make actual plays of Cyberpunk Red, because I just feel like there's so much room for narrative in it, without it being a rules light game. Also, it's got a good skeleton to build narrative off of.
So when you were saying that you would write notes in your notebook, but I would often use the companion app, the hide zeros option. So when you're looking through skills that you have stuff in, it's really easy because it just pares them all down super short. So you just go, oh, do, and the list isn't 70 things long. It's 12, and 12 is a lot easier to navigate than 70 something or whatever. But I mean, the skills, they're hyper specific, but that's kind of the cool part about it, I think, is that you're really good at a few things, which makes it more realistic in my mind. Because if it's too general, it's this skill, because you're good at this skill, suddenly you're good at this skill because it uses the same thing as its core. And I'm but I mean, someone could be really good at guitar and really shitty at picking locks. Just because it uses dexterity doesn't make it the same, you know what I mean? So that's why I kind of like some of the hyper specificity in Cyberpunk. But I also think there are some things that are a little more simplified in Cyberpunk, which is nice. There's not a whole bunch of different dice. You just need 1d10 and 66, and it's great. And that's all you need. It's pretty simple. And the idea of you get shot it has 2d6s instead of a d8 and a d12, and then add 6, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4 d6. That's it. Like, it's pretty simple. And I like that. As opposed to, you mentioned Shadowrun. Lex ran a Shadowrun game for me and his brother years back. And that was my first introduction into like a different system other than D&D. And I do love Shadowrun, but it's much more complicated than I feel like Cyberpunk is. I feel like Cyberpunk is easier to understand. I think it's smoother. And I think that if you think Cyberpunk is crunchy, man, you should check out Shadowrun. But I still love them both. But as far as how they compare, I think Cyberpunk's a little smoother game-wise. I think I do miss the magic element of Shadowrun, but I think Cyberpunk is probably a more realized, more developed, more smooth game. And D&D is, they're both role-playing games, but they're like staunchly different. Like, it's stark, the difference. So it's hard to compare them because they're just not at all really the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think my background is mostly in D&D and Shadowrun. And those are the two systems I played for a really long time. But what I'll say is, there's really, I'm just so in love with the mechanics of Red. I've never experienced anything quite like it. That gameplay moves, and I'm not even one of those people who gets like anxious about stopping to roll dice and figure things out. Like, I think that's part of playing a tabletop role-playing game. But knowing that there's a big difference between rolling a d10 and adding a number to it, and rolling, when you get advanced in Shadowrun, something like 25 d6s. At some point you're like, I'm done counting. But what I love about those two systems is, and I think that Cyberpunk brings it to the next level, is just how customizable your characters are. There's not a class necessarily. Sure, you can pick a role, but you can really customize your skills to realize something more. So with Ricky, for example, like, yes, he was a rocker boy, but a part of his backstory was that he was a really good second story man. That's how he survived. He was a stealthy guy who knew how to get in and out of places without being seen. And I wrote that in his backstory, and I realized that with his skills, and I was never tied down by the system by how I wanted to flower my character. And that's one of the things that I think differs greatly between Cyberpunk and something like D&D 5e.
Yeah, I maxed out my hygiene. It never mattered, but I was like, my character would be clean. Like, it came up for Brad, but it didn't come up for me ever. And I was like, I feel like I wasted some of my points there, but I'm not changing it because
Not a waste at all.
When I hear that, I feel like my biggest failure as a GM was not asking you to roll for that.
Yeah. Dustin is right. As much as I love him, he is correct.
Yeah, I that is my two regrets. Both specifically with Nautica and Shipwrecked. One is I never had you roll for personal grooming, and the other is I chickened out and didn't have your mom pick up the phone. So I guess that's going to have to just be resolved in season 2.
I thought I was going to die, man.
all hygiene rolls and mom conversations.
Oh no.
The whole time.
The whole game.
Just crying in the shower.
So I have a question for Day. So what was it like? Because I feel like in 5e, which I know you've played a lot of, like, every class has magic. Every class can do something in combat. So what was it like kind of building a character that was so investigative and like really a face, like fully through and through a face character? And like because as a player, I feel like I have a bit of fear doing stuff like that and not having kind of a backup if I do get hit. So what was that like for you?
It was fine. And honestly, because I also usually, like, when I play D&D, I play such chaotic characters, and when I don't, I am usually a little bored. But I was never bored once, even though I was, tended to be. Well, I got to be chaotic when I was.
Yeah,
Nautica.
I was gonna say, is Shipwreck not chaotic?
I got to let it out as Nautica. But man, I don't
Definitely
know
what Ricky liked about her was that she was chaotic.
Exactly. That's what we all liked.
I didn't miss not having magic because so much was happening in the world, like so much, and Dustin made sure there was like even the role play was super like engaging, and but we were always fighting at the same time because that's just the world. So it was very different, but I didn't feel like I missed anything. I don't know if that answers the question.
That does. No, that totally does. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So to me, the biggest difference between the two systems is the type of storytelling you can do. I really, the bug really bit me when I got to play with John. I mean, if all y'all could be so lucky as to have your first games be with JonJonTheWise, then you probably would have the same experience I did. But it became apparent to me really, really quickly that the type of stories that could be told through Cyberpunk Red versus the high fantasy or even low fantasy, you can really, I mean, like when are you going to have these moments like tension between families, the very real thought that like, even those moves where I'm like, okay, Brett, you got to kill Shipwrecked, like, if you say that to someone in 5e, like, one, the PvP is not as fun, and two, it's like, well, okay, I killed her and then she got resurrected or passed a death save or whatever. Like, the stakes are just not the same. Not to say you can't tell beautiful stories, and plenty of people have, and I've really enjoyed playing fantastical stories and like being a hero. But when you want to tell a story that's about the human condition, it's great when your whole party is human. And I think that was really, really different. And I didn't grasp that until we just really just dug into the story and like the big impact that had on, you can't wish things away. You can't magic them away. It's just real. And then mechanically, yes, the skill tree is huge. And like I said, my biggest regret is not making Nautica role hygiene, because I think that is the key, right? To borrow from D&D, you shoot the monk, right? Because the monk has a really cool ability where they can catch an arrow and throw it. And if you don't ever shoot them, they never get to do it. And it makes them feel like, what a waste. So get your players' character sheets or get their code on the companion app. Look at where they put their points, write it down, ask for those skill checks. That's something I'm really working on myself. I know I asked for like 5,000 perception checks and like one conceal reveal,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So that's what I would work on myself as a GM. And I'm just really glad that one of the big inspirations for us doing this and creating an actual play of Cyberpunk Red on a channel produced in a way that's just easily consumable is hopefully so that we can grow the community and you all can learn the game and see, yes, there's some tricks to it, but it doesn't have to be super complicated, and sit down with your friends and play the game. And if you don't want to role play hard like we do, or if your players are having trouble with that, don't worry. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Like, we're actors on a soundstage with cameras on us. Like, of course, the role play happens a lot easier for us. But I just say, like, just keep playing, keep encouraging those moments, and they'll come and they'll happen for you. And it's a great game. And yeah, much love to the community. I was super okay. Sorry, I'm getting long-winded here. I know we're trying to wrap up.
No worries.
And I get long-winded. One of my biggest fears going into this endeavor was, I don't know what the Cyberpunk community is going to be like. Am I going to get on Reddit and am I going to get destroyed for missing a rule or saying a wrong thing? And the truth is, like, yeah, I'm sure they're out there like, oh, he did this wrong or whatever. But the vast majority of the reception has been overwhelmingly positive. And even when rules are a little weird, they're like, oh, is this a house rule? Or like, why did you do it this way? And it's been great. Honestly, it's just been, meeting people through the internet. I mean, the fans and the fans of the game and the fans of the show have all been awesome. And before we wrap up, speaking of the dice that you need to play, I wanted to do this in person, but let's see, can I show them off?
Ooh, here we
this
go.
is a little baggy, and it's not drugs. It
depends what your definition of drugs is.
Yeah, and this is a gift.
Not vaccines.
Not vaccines, not drugs.
This is a gift from us to you, John. These are handmade dice that, let's see if I can get a look here. Here's the D10. And the numbers are UV reactive. So I don't know if you
so cool, man.
look at how those are glowing. And
thank you so much.
The two of the D6s have they don't have 8s on them. It looks like an 8 kind of, but that's
infinite.
It's the infinity logo for you. And the next time I see you over at Green Tower, I'll make sure I have them for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And I just want to, on behalf of the community, as a part of the community, I want to thank all of you for putting in the hard work, putting in the time, caring about it, and giving us such an amazing season 1. And I really can't wait to see what we have going for season 2. Hopefully some hygiene checks. We'll have
hygiene checks and shoot Ricky more.
Yeah, Ricky
needs to get his butt kicked.
Yeah, that, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of shots with blades next season.
Exactly.
So many shots. I'll probably fail all those checks.
You're gonna die from the resist torture drugs.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like a real rocker boy. It's not the bullets, it's the drugs.
Have a backup character ready.
With that, Chooms, I just want to say thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. Make sure you guys follow Infinite Sided Dice on all of their social media. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, join their Patreon. All those things help them out. And we all appreciate all your love and support. We will see you guys again, season 2. Have a wonderful day, Chooms. Take care. Bye.
Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work. Good work, gang. Good work, John.